Hello and welcome to the Luv Doc podcast with hosts Waldo Wachewski and Ophelia Brewski.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We have a reader. Let's call her Sarah. She's 30, moved from Houston to Austin about, a year and a half into her relationship.
Right, with her boyfriend who's still back in Houston.
And Austin is where Sarah really feels she belongs. The original plan, or understanding, was that he'd eventually move too. They'd done long distance before, so it seemed feasible.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's saying the distance is really hard, citing work stress, family stuff.
Yeah, and it's reached the point where he's actually suggesting ending things because of it.
Which leaves Sarah with this incredibly tough choice. Does she go back to Houston, try to salvage the relationship?
Or does she stay put in Austin, the city she loves, which probably means breaking her lease and, well, likely the relationship ending anyway.
And, at the heart of it all for Sarah is this question. Is moving back to Houston really worth giving up the life she prefers in Austin? Especially now, at 30, thinking about marriage.
Yeah, is it a worthwhile compromise? That's the core dilemma.
Exactly. So our mission now is to really, dissect that advice, understand the columnist's take on the relationship, the dynamics they see.
And hopefully shed some light on the potential outcomes for Sarah, depending on what she decides.
Right. So let's dive into the Luv Doc's view first. What was your initial reaction to their assessment?
Well, they definitely don't pull any punches.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear they see some, let's call them red flags.
Yeah, several. Like the boyfriend wasn't really thrilled about her moving to Austin in the first place, but kind of just went along with it.
Mm-hmm. That sets a certain context, doesn't it?
It does. And then his current stance, basically saying he might end things over the distance. That feels significant.
It's quite telling, yeah. And also that point about him worrying she might resent him if she moves back without him making a similar kind of sacrifice.
Right. That whole piece.
Yeah.
It paints a picture of maybe hesitation or something more.
It does suggest, I think, a certain reluctance. The Luv Doc basically floats the idea that he might be, passively wanting out.
Without actually having to be the one to say it.
Exactly. That reference they made to the TikTok meme about ghosting or quitting a relationship, it sort of highlights that potential avoidance of a direct, difficult conversation.
It really does. And the Luv Doc digs into the effort imbalance, too. Austin to Houston. So we're talking 2.5 hours?
Yeah, give or take. The Luv Doc jokes about the wolf from Pulp Fiction making it faster.
Right, which is funny, but then they bring it back to reality.
Yeah.
Houston traffic, hurricane evacuation routes sometimes, that can definitely make it feel longer.
True, and they do acknowledge Austin traffic isn't exactly a breeze either.
Fair point.
But the Luv Doc's main point isn't just about the clock, right? It's about the apparent lack of consistent, proactive effort from the boyfriend to actually make that drive regularly.
Yeah.
Which, makes you question how much priority he's putting on that in-person connection. And if you're talking about a potential marriage relationship, as the Luv Doc puts it,
you'd expect to see more effort generally.
You'd think so, yeah. More consistency in trying to be physically present.
Which leads us straight back to Sarah's conflict. Loving Austin versus potentially building a future, a marriage with this guy.
And the Luv Doc tackles the whole Houston versus Austin lifestyle thing quite vividly.
Oh, yeah, the comparisons. Lady Bird Lake, Zilker Park versus Buffalo Bayou.
The Houston humidity, the occasional alligator mention.
Contrasted with Barton Springs being vanilla ice cold, apparently too cold for gators. It's quite the image.
It is, and while it's a bit lighthearted, maybe slightly exaggerated,
sure,
the underlying point seems to be aimed at Sarah's stated preference.
Holy crap! You're psychotically obsessed with the Luv Doc, but can't think of a flashy gauche way to share your obsession with the world? Stop thinking and make a beeline for the Luv Doc's home sweet home on the interwebs, thepleasurecraft.com, where you can find a veritable treasure trove of sick merch that will make even your coolest friends super gel. Honestly, I don't know why you didn't already think of this yourself, but you're welcome. Have fun on the Pleasure Craft. It was made just for you. Let me spell it out for you one more time. www.thepleasurecraft.com.
The Luv Doc is kind of asking, are you really making the most of what Austin offers?
Like, are you actually out there kayaking Lady Bird Lake every weekend?
Right. Because if not, if you're living a more sort of standard urban life, maybe the difference from Houston, which also has parks and green spaces, isn't quite as dramatic as it feels.
So it's prompting a deeper look. Is it the specific place or a more general sense of happiness she's found? Could that be found elsewhere?
It's a good question to ask yourself. A really vital point to consider, I think. Is the preference tied to tangible activities, or is it more of an overall feeling?
Definitely food for thought. And then the Love Doc gets into the potential less than ideal outcomes.
Yeah, the worst case scenarios. They lay out some pretty sobering possibilities.
Like she moves back to Houston, and then what? She just gets more non-committal waffling, as they put it.
Right, leading to a breakup anyway just later on after she's already uprooted her life again.
Ugh, that's one tough possibility.
The other is she stays in Austin and he does follow through and ends it because of the distance, the lack of FaceTime.
So neither path is exactly risk-free.
Not at all. Both carry pretty significant risks for disappointment.
But then the Love Doc points out something Sarah does have going for her.
Which is?
Clarity. She knows what she wants. That's self-awareness compared to a partner who seems, well, uncertain or maybe just bad at communicating what he wants.
That's a huge asset. Knowing your own mind in a situation like this is powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Love Doc basically poses that fundamental question, right? Do you, Sarah, want to be with someone who's either unsure about what they want from the relationship or maybe just afraid to actually say it out loud?
It really cuts to the core of what makes a partnership work long-term. Communication, clarity, shared goals.
And there is a practical suggestion offered too.
Yes, the lease.
Yes, stick it out in Austin until the lease is up. Use that time, that sort of defined period.
As a gauge to see what level of commitment he actually shows.
Exactly. If he's not making the effort consistently during those remaining months.
That tells you something pretty important about his priorities, presumably.
It's like a real-world test of his willingness to invest in the relationship despite the miles.
Makes sense. And that final thought from the Love Doc is also quite empowering for Sarah, I think.
You mean about Austin?
Yeah, basically saying, look, a 30-year-old woman can do just fine, can build a great life for herself in Austin, relationship or no relationship.
Right, it shifts the focus back to her own agency, her own potential for happiness, independent of him.
It really does. It underlines her strength and options.
Okay, so wrapping up the Love Doc's advice, the big takeaway seems to be these warning signs. The Love Doc sees flags suggesting maybe a lack of real deep commitment from the boyfriend.
And the advice leans heavily towards Sarah prioritizing her own happiness and being wary of potential continued uncertainty, even if she moves back.
So, Sarah, this brings us to maybe the final thought for you to consider, building on all this, beyond just deciding where to live right now.
Yeah, what does this whole situation, this conflict tell you about the deeper stuff? The communication in your relationship? The level of commitment, really?
And what does that mean for the potential marriage you're hoping for?
Yeah.
If these issues around effort, communication, and frankly, willingness to potentially end things over distance are present now.
Do his actions, his current stance, truly line up with the kind of dedicated, all-in partnership you envision for your future? That's a big question to reflect on.
We really hope this deep dive into the Love Doc and the underlying dynamics has given you some valuable perspective as you face this really significant decision.
Yeah, just gaining that clearer understanding is hopefully a really helpful step towards figuring out the path that feels right for you.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/thelovedoc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?